How's it going, everyone? It is Prashan here, and I have Hela with me. No, just kidding. How's it going, Tucker? How's it going?
We're doing absolutely fantastic. As always, guys, it is the best time of the week, our favorite time of the week. We're going to give you guys some decks to help you guys win the weekend. Let's freaking go.
Yeah, and Hela is on top of the meta, or at least she's climbing right now. So, of course, we're going to go over some Hela decks. We went over some last week. We predicted the future. We had that Agatha. I think it was Agatha. Yeah. But Hela was around the corner from Agatha. As soon as Agatha was going to pop up, of course, Hela, because we do have Hell Cow. Hell Cow is now activate. So let's take a look at Hell Cow 2. Let's see here. Hell Cow is now a 4/6 and an activate card. What do you think about this card now?
This card is incredible now. I think this is all Hell Cow needed to actually be a card, like actually legit. Being able to target when you can discard cards has always been good. Like if we just look at targeted cards in your hand as being great, being able to activate this later in the game to get some better value is always just incredible. You're seeing it in Hela a lot. Also in like classic discard, it's actually really good to get some bigger apocalypse and stuff. This card just feels legit, and it feels like it's what the discard archetype needed to be more competitive again.
Do you think this replaces MODOK?
No, I don't think this replaces MODOK. I think it's a good alternate line for MODOK, especially if you don't have MODOK, because he is a Series 4 card. But I do really enjoy this card.
So let's go into some decks here. We'll go one by one. We'll go over it, and then hopefully you guys could get into Infinite or win some Infinity tickets, because next week, that's when Infinity Conquest happens. So let's get some borders. So let's go into the first deck here. We're going to go right into Husky Hela. So there's Wasp, Blade, Lady Sif, Jubilee, Hell Cow, Black Cat, Blink, Hela, Magneto, Giganto, the Infinite, and Death. What are you thinking here, Tucker?
So, like, the first thing you guys are going to ask, why is Wasp in this list? That doesn't make
that's why
any
I asked.
sense.
I was like, what?
But it's another good card for you to be able to blink out to get some value. Another card you can throw onto the board, so your Hell Cow still continues to get value, and you have positive power that way. You can play it out with Hela as an extra card. Husky is one of the main reasons for having Wasp in this list, is he was facing a good bit of Jean Grey, and if there is Jean Grey Cosmo and stuff, you play the Wasp down onto the Cosmo Jean Grey lane, and you can play Hela onto another lane, and you don't have to worry about that counter right there, which is really good. But this list feels solid. I'm also a believer that I think Luke Cage can work in Hela, but I think it is still a little bit of cope, and I'd rather have another card I can either discard or another enabler than having Luke Cage in the Hela list.
All right. So speaking of Luke Cage and list, this is one that I have been playing that has Luke Cage in the list. So it's pretty much the same list, except for there's no Wasp. It's basically like Luke Cage. I wasn't facing that, I guess, the Jean Grey meta. So I was able to get a lot of wins off of this. Personally, it's pretty good. Like, I think I had like a 70% win rate at one point. Like, no one was really catching on. The only hard counters with this, I think if someone is playing Red Guardian, I think Red Guardian stocks go high, especially if they see like that Hell Cow by itself. Obviously, Clog goes against this pretty well. We'll talk about some counter decks against Hela if you don't want to play Hela and you want to play something else. But this is basically letting Hela rise again from the ashes. It was only dead for so long. But I feel like the meta is still wide open. So let's go into another deck here. And this is actually the counter to Hela. So this deck originally had Hulkling, which me and Tucker did not like that at all. I personally do not like that RNG, and I think Alioth is a good counter, especially against Hela decks. You're taking the risk to predict, but as long as you have that Cosmo down, you only have 2 lanes to worry about. You have White Widow for the Clog. Leech is in here too to stop Hela, so you have many ways to counter that. And then Blink can save you too, a lot of the time too. It could pull out a Leech out of nowhere, especially if you played like White Widow or Shadow King prior. And the interesting thing of this deck is the whole Ghost Rider discard package with Swordmaster and Blade. That's pretty interesting too.
Yeah, the interesting thing is too the way Blink works with Ghost Rider. If you didn't know, when Ghost Rider does Blink back Blink, it's the card you played before Ghost Rider that gets blinked out, opposed to Ghost Rider himself. But you're using this in like the old school, like you're playing Leech into Blink to get value. Like that's the main thing you're doing. Swordmaster is to give you some extra power you throw down with the Ghost Rider. But your Swordmaster doesn't hit Goliath, doesn't hit Red Hulk. Your Blade is the only card that can hit that. So you're kind of just using that as some just raw stats and tempo. And then like we have Goliath in this list instead because we're thinking of how can you actually take out Hela with this. We wanted to have more than just 2 options because Hulkling's just so random. So Goliath, you hit Hela, Hela doesn't do anything. Leech, you hit Hela, Hela doesn't do anything. Cosmo on the Hela lane, Hela doesn't do anything. So you have 3 options now to be able to affect that. And then you also are clogging up their board with White Widow, so they have one less board space for one of their big cards if they do summon Hela. So overall, it just felt like a pretty good, flexible kind of counter list too.
Yeah, very good deck. I just didn't like the Hulkling. I don't like the Hulkling in general. I think that's a card I don't even play. I feel like that's in the dumpster for me personally. But
it's bad.
Yeah,
it's bad.
Yeah, if I wasn't a content creator and making videos, I would not have that card. Personally. So let's go into some War Machine shenanigans. War Machine is still out there. I don't think it's as abundant. I think everyone's sort of over the whole Storm War Machine Legion thing, I think, as a community, but it's still out there for some of you guys that enjoy other people's pain. So we have Nebula, Ebony Maw, Goose, White Widow, Jeff, Storm, Jubilee, War Machine, Crossbones, Legion, Doctor Doom, and the Infinite. So, pretty good lockdown deck. I wish they would bring the old Professor X back. I think that would stop some of the stuff. I think it would even stop Hela, personally, but here it is. I think we talked about a deck like this last week, too. So, more of the same.
And this also is a great counter to Hela as well with the Goose there and Storm, so limiting the lanes Hela can be played on, which is really nice. Potentially using a Widow's Kiss to also clog that lane so they're forced to do something else and they just lose. Also, Storm Legion is a great scam against Hela. If they can't play their Hela anywhere, they really just can't do anything. So there's a bunch of just really solid options with this also being a counter list. And as much as people were hating on War Machine, saying it's so OP, if you look at the stats, War Machine's really not that OP. It's just like the other cards around War Machine that are just giving you just like 2 cube wins. It's not like War Machine's all more often than not giving you 4 to 8. You're just the cube equity is just not there.
Yeah, I think if you're trying to climb with this next season, it's going to be tough because everyone will just retreat. It's like those old school Galactus decks. You're going to get 1 or 2 cubes at a time. You're not going to make those huge gains that you would with a deck that's more unpredictable.
Yep.
And then next here we have Woody Arana. Arana was the newest card that was brought into Marvel Snap. What do you think about this card here?
I love Arana. What I really love about Arana is I think she's very flexible. I think you can play her in your classic move. You could play her into your destroy. And I think it's kind of the same situation I was thinking about with Madam Web, is like at the slot they're at, they add value. Yes, this has text similar to Forge, but it's not Forge because it has to be next card you play. And the honor reveal happens before you actually move the card. But it feels good. The reason they nerfed Forge at a 1-drop was because it added the 2 power and just felt like really bad being able to target that. But like it just feels really good. And I've been using this in a bunch of different lists, and like you're just profiting.
Yeah, this card is definitely pretty good. I think activate is tough for some to get used to. Just make sure you activate the card, and then you play your next card, and just order matters when you're playing activate too, because it is in that process as well. And then don't forget too to use your activates, and then don't play them on turn 6 unless like you need like the random power. Just things to remember with activate.
Also, to note, okay, Symbiote Spider-Man does not reactivate cards. And if you activate Symbiote Spider-Man onto an activate card that has not gone off, you cannot activate that new card because Symbiote Spider-Man already activated. So just keep that in mind. So if you were to have Aranya and you're like, you know what, I want to protect my Aranya, I want to symbiote Spider-Man onto Aranya, you can't then afterwards activate symbiote Spider-Man with Aranya's ability since symbiote Spider-Man already activated.
Yeah, I've tried it. I tried to do the whole like magic thing to have an extra turn and then put it on top, and it really didn't work the way I thought it was gonna work. But let's take a look at this deck. This is Woody Aranya, so we have Aranya, Kitty Pryde, Ghost Spider, Maria Hill, Dagger, Madam Web, Hawkeye, Kate Bishop, Vulture, Wiccan, Spider-Man 2099, Heimdall, and Alioth. So I really like the whole Spider-Man 2099 play here. I think he's going to be in another deck later on that we'll discuss. I feel like he actually has value, especially with Madam Web. You're not forcing him to move as much, or you're not as committed to moving him with one of your cards like Ghost Spider, or with like, I guess Iron Fist isn't in this deck, but you're not committed on forcing that move with 2099, especially since you have Heimdall and Madam Web. Of course, you have Wiccan here. That way you get that extra energy. That way you're more flexible on the later turns in the game. And then Dagger has a lot of value too, and it seems like Woody goes more towards Dagger than Human Torch, even though I think Human Torch might go off more than a Dagger would.
And it's because there's still just so much Killmonger going around, so I get doing the Dagger value. But what I like about this list, first of all, Ghost Spider finally got readjusted. We had a hot fix yesterday with a mini OTA, so Ghost Spider should work as intended. She's not bugged anymore. But what I really, really like about this list, honestly, is you can play a Heimdall on turn 5 instead of just turn 6. And a turn 6 Heimdall is just so predictable. So being able to play Heimdall early to get all of these just abilities go off again, and then you follow up with Alioth. Like, Alioth is just incredible right now. Fighting for priority is something you see way more this season and last season than prior. And that literally offsets, the end of the game. If you're trying to steal cubes, you play an early Heimdall and you follow it up with Alioth, and you're literally guessing as an opponent. Like, it's so good. Like, Woody just freaking cooked with this list. And like you said, I like the 2099 value. Not having to make sure you're Aranya, your 2099, or Ghost Spider it. You just have the Madam Web to play it wherever is just really solid.
Yeah, you definitely put the pressure on the opponent, especially when you put that 2099 on the board. And then next we have here is... we've already talked about that one, but let's talk about this one. It's more movement in this Tribunal move. We have Aranya, Ghost Spider, Human Torch, Iron Fist, Dagger, Madam Web, Craven, Cloak, Vulture, Hercules, 2099, and the Living Tribunal. So this can go crazy. I feel like with the move deck like this, especially when you're playing Tribunal, whenever you make mistakes... Tribunal makes up for them, and you could get your Human Torch as big as you want, especially with the whole Madam Web, Cloak. You have Ghost Spider, Iron Fist. Like, you have so many ways to get that Human Torch big, to get that Dagger huge, to get that Vulture huge, and then Hercules actually has value. Ever since it was changed to a 3/4, it actually feels right in move decks. It felt more awkward and clunky as a 4 before. But this deck is pretty good. There's so many ways to move and trick your opponent. And there's no Heimdall. So they know you're not moving all your cards to the left.
And that's what I was going to say. They're always going to be expecting the Heimdall. But, like, the Tribunal is so cheeky. And then, like, second of all, like, 2099 with Aranya is just a really good combo. Not saying it is the god combo, but like not having to set up other ways to get 2099 to go off, that becomes a 511, by the way, which is really good as well for just stats on the board. You have so many different ins and outs, and like you said, you get your Human Torch big. More often than not, you're like, okay, well, I have Human Torch big in one lane. I have to win another lane to win the game. But you have Tribunal instead of Heimdall, because they're always going to be expecting a Heimdall instead. But, like, no, yeah, I have a lot of power here on the left, but that power is going to be spread across 3 lanes now, so you can't actually math for it unless they've seen you play the list. And, like, if it's Conquest, they can see it, but, like, on Ladder, this just probably stomps.
Yeah, with Ladder, it's more of a surprise. Conquest, they know what's happening, because obviously you play them over and over, unless it's Proving Grounds. Hopefully, like, they leave. But, yeah.
Hopefully.
And then speaking of Proving Grounds and Conquest, I have been killing with this deck. I believe I have like 3 or 4 Infinity tickets just with this deck alone. I really like the feel of this. You can actually hang with the Hela decks as well because more Eliath, and you have Magneto here to clog a little bit. But Kitty Pryde, Maria Hill, Hydra Bob, Mirage, Angela, Kate Bishop, Speed, Hope, Wiccan, Claw, and then the Eliath and Magneto. And especially, too, you could get more energy out with a Hope Summers Wiccan play, as long as you could play on curve. And the curve works pretty well because you have Kitty Pryde, and you have Maria Hill, you have Hydra Bob, you have Mirage. Maybe you could snipe out something, too, from their side that's low cost. And you, of course, you have Angela, and then you have the Kate Bishop, too. So much good stuff in the beginning of the game and the late game. And the Claw is such a surprise card too. You could actually squeak it out in the Hope Summers lane, and then Eliath or Magneto just to move power around. Like, this deck is pretty good. I would say the one thing that you might have to worry about is snapping in Hydra Bob, because that could lose you some games. Bob could go where you don't want Bob to go, but Bob, you can have strategic snaps too, right? You could not snap and not have him move, or you could have him snap and have him go where you need him to go.
Yeah, this feels good. At first I was like, Mirage over Cable seems interesting, but then you brought up a great point of stealing a lower cost card from your opponent to help with your curve even more, and I really like that tech. Also, because Mirage is Series 3 now, not Series 4. So that means most people are going to have Mirage, which is cool. But no, this list feels really, really good. I feel like with Wiccan overall, you put Wiccan hand in hand with Eliath. And having the Claw as one of those sneaky, it's a 5/12 pretty much, as long as you don't play it on the right lane. But it just feels really good, and I like the speed value too. Like, you're just spending all your energy. Speed gets to 9 power, like a 3/9's good. It's boring, but it's good. But like, I feel like this definitely can catch people off by surprise, and you got all sorts of different mix-ups to be able to just like alter what they're trying to do.
Yeah, this is a solid, safe list, I think, especially at speed. A lot of people were saying that speed's boring, but I think boring is good. No one's saying he's trash. So, yeah. Like, I think it'll be the opposite if someone said that this card was trash, or maybe if it was too OP, it would get nerfed soon. So I think it's a good spot where he is. And
it's not Hulkling.
Oh, yeah, Hulkling's trash. Hulkling sucks, in my opinion. But I think that's it for this week. A little bit shorter. The meta is the meta, but I think these decks are pretty spicy, pretty good. I think you guys should try to play them. So, anything before we take off, Tucker?
Wish you guys the best of luck with your climb this week. There's going to be an OTA on next Thursday, of course. Hopefully that might reshape the meta as well. But overall, hope you guys have a great weekend. Complete those weekend missions too. If you guys did get Arana, it should be pretty easy, honestly. I feel like with Arana than most cards. But yeah. Yeah,
don't miss out on those bounties. Don't get kicked from your alliances. So thank you guys for watching. Till next time, be safe. Keep on snapping, and peace.
Snap.